Welcome seniors, families, friends, faculty, staff, trustees, and alumni to Hawkins School's graduation 2002. Before I begin my formal charge to the class of 2002, I want them to reflect on how they began their years at Hawkins. Beginnings are always interesting and often foretell the future. The class of 2002 shares with Shakespearean plays the questionable virtue of starting with a bang. You recall that Hamlet starts with a ghost, Romeo and Juliet with a street brawl, The Tempest with a storm, Twelfth Night with a courtly parade. You get the picture. The class of 2002 also began their years at Hawken with attention-getting style. Now they are about to begin their adult lives, and it is appropriate to ask what they made of their years here once they captured our attention. What will they be remembered for, and what will they remember themselves of their Hawken education? I invited the faculty and staff from both campuses to share with me their memories of these seniors over the years. Students who are as varied as individuals, but who, like every class, have a group personality. Here are some of the themes that emerged, especially about their major entry points. In first grade, you were gregarious, energetic, and enthusiastic, all surefire ways to begin with a bang. Your first Halloween, you came as a ghost, shades of Hamlet, a mummy, a devil, a clown, a shark, a tiger, a pirate, in short, the normal cast for a Shakespearean tragedy or comedy. Throughout the lower school, you were fun-loving, caring, and full of life, a special group. You are especially remembered in the middle school as one of the finest groups of students in music, performing concert solos, guest conducting the symphonic band, devoting extra hours to rehearsals, a challenge to work with, but outstanding and dedicated. When you arrived at the upper school, with almost a third of the class being new to Hawken, that brash, fun-loving, challenging spirit remained, while your outstanding and dedicated qualities grew even stronger. I began with you at Gates Mills and have grown fond of you both in class and as classmates of my own son, Philip. So I can say from personal experience that you have been a pleasure to teach and a delight to know. And how did you harness all of this energy as you matured? Take your senior prank as a great example. What a wonderful tone you set this year for the whole upper school, symbolized by the best senior prank in Hawkins history. Breaking a rule that made us all smile, bringing scores of your dogs to school for classes and school meeting. We will remember you as a talented, spirited, and unpredictable group of individuals. But what, I should ask, will the class of 2002 take from their Hawken education, which began so exuberantly? Beyond the specific skills and facts, beyond the warm rapport with teachers and friends, beyond the thrill of accomplishments and the wisdom of defeats, I hope you will remember our mission, that the better self shall prevail, and each generation introduce its successor to a higher plane of life, as well as our motto, fair play. What will each of you make of such simple words? How will your Hawken education inform your future choices as this Shakespearean drama continues? I heard a phrase a month ago that made me think of our mission from another point of view. It went like this: we are warmed at fires we did not build, and we drink from wells we did not dig. Similarly, we know that we can see further because we sit on the shoulders of giants from the past. You are the next generation of Hawkins' mission, warmed and watered, seeing beyond what your teachers and parents can imagine, because those who came before you prepared your way. Now I am ready to begin your formal charge as you graduate today to begin your futures. In the style you have taught us to expect of you, let me ask Kevin for some help to begin with a bang. Use what you have learned at Hawken to inform your better self, as only you can live it day to day. Practice fair play, not when you will be advantaged by it, but when you must sacrifice your preference so that someone else will benefit. Lead a life that considers the needs of those who will come after you, those you will never meet. Leave cords of firewood at way stations where you have been warmed. Dig new and deeper wells so that others will have fresh water in future times of drought. And be willing to offer up your own shoulders while lowering your eyes so that someone else can see into a distant horizon that you will never cross. Do all of this with the joy, fun, adventure, and high spirits that you have shown us here. Begin every new experience with a bang, and then, as at Hawken, mature into a full and caring life within that experience. Remember what you have learned. Remember each other and us. Remember those who come after you. And return to share with us your future triumphs. Like a good Shakespearean play, end with a richer, wiser conclusion. Congratulations, and to you and your families, all of our warm best wishes.
Okay, let me start off by saying this. I'm sorry ahead of time for all the jokes you don't understand, all the things you miss, but this is for the senior class, so this is for you guys. Maybe high school wasn't what you expected it to be at all. Maybe you weren't part of a clique as you previously had been, or you decided to give up a hobby you love. High school is about more than the clothes you wore, the tests you had, EIs, and those overly stressful SATs. It is about the homecomings you attended and had so much fun at. It's about excelling in a sport you love, even if you made a difference only once. It's about the good friends that will be around much longer than these 4 years, who wiped your tears, shared your smiles, and even thought with the same mind. High school can be about so many things for each and every one of us, but I think there is one common ground that we all share. High school is about our memories. It is about the memories we have individually, with our friends, and as a class, and I'd like to share some of those with you. Every time I grabbed a pen, I didn't know what to write. I consulted with John about a message or some revolutionary insight. What can I say that they haven't heard before? Some type of new revelation that would leave jaws on the floor? I figured focusing on my 12 sports seasons wouldn't get it done, or my freshman posse nights when I had so much fun. Thanks, Nick, Katie, and Chica. It wouldn't stay interesting if I talked on my circle of friends, even though I care about the LaFays, Glavins, and my fam to no end. I wouldn't want to talk about my favorite teacher that everyone else hated, or about the high school boyfriends everyone already knew I had dated. Instead, I want this 5-minute snippet to be imprinted in your mind, for you to say, thank you, Carmen, that was worth my time. So let's get on the same page and get in a good mood. Imagine Hawken as a metaphor for my favorite thing, food. Hawken is a Crispito, not knowing what it is till you take a bite. You're confused as to why you continue to eat it all those late nights, the indigestion, the test you failed after studying all too long, the sour cream bringing you a smile because your friend got the same number wrong. Okay, maybe some of you cannot feel my vibe, that for the past 4 years, we have been on the same exact ride. You know, the one with the college at the end of it all, the one at times making you wonder if you can handle the long haul. You know, the one where Jenny A left a tear in your eye, the one with Andrew and John's No Woman, No Cry. You know the ride where at forums people let it all go, the one where Alex and Nat and Tim got up and dropped the flow? Or how about the time when people brought all the dogs to school because in the handbook it didn't say no pets was a rule? What about us being the only class left to remember a 10:15 start, the one where Dr. Nelson, Mr. Verlinger, and Sturge left footprints on our hearts? Or that trip to physics day when the bus tire blew, Mr. Reno taking pictures of everything, the police officer too. The institutionalizing of a nurse in the March bracket bets, getting yelled at for spilling ketchup and thinking, go put on a hairnet. The college acceptances and the rejections that hurt, the scavenger hunt, junior wake up, and our Disturbing the Peace t-shirts, thanks Rhonda. Or how about it was our class with the longest winter break ever? Or do you all remember last year's whole Transformer endeavor? And I'm sure you've had the same experience at Beechwood Mall when you can't remember a time when there wasn't a Hawken person you saw. We had almost 30 more at our beginning to complete our crew, but we're happy to have the additions of Foonch, Lindsay J, and my boy Drew. Who could ever forget Abu and the Bright Horizons play, or being together on 9/11 when we wiped each other's tears away? Or how about that 3-day period going through rehab, or dreading those day twos, or dreading those day twos when you knew you had double lab? We were on the same ride if you went to Camp Cheerful that day. You're in the class of '02 if you're still wondering if in that stall that really was Clay. Or the fact that snow days never happened despite the snow being knee-deep, or knowing that when a friend had to borrow at Hawken, they really meant to keep. Traveling all over for soccer, swimming, track, and lacrosse states, congrats lacrosse, having that random ice cream bar for just that one day. It's about those games and debates that people came to support. It's about leaving in the middle of day to face a judge at traffic court. It's about wearing jeans every Friday, knowing it ain't no dress-down day. But when you get confronted, you act shocked and walked away. Hey, maybe you haven't liked my speech or won't remember it at all, but best of luck to each one of you heading off to college or armed forces next fall. I'm so proud and truly pleased to be a part of 2002, not to mention class of '03 and '04 sounding as bad to me as it probably does to you. A special thanks to my fam, the Russos, and the Richmond Heights team for continuous encouragement and the support to achieve my dreams. Thank you to my peers who graciously granted me the chance to speak on our behalf, taking 4 years at a glance. So maybe you and I have never shared more than a brief moment of connection, but I hope today we share just a few. From two different ends of the spectrum, we can still share one mind by possessing just a few of the same memories. I would be sorely mistaken if I didn't take the special time out to thank those whom I love most and who love me unconditionally. To the Russos, whom I spent 10 of my 12 seasons with, whom have been parents when I was wrong and encouraged me when I did right, I thank you and love you. To Jasmine, the best sister and friend anyone could ever ask for, I love you. No distance will ever separate us. I think we truly are a testament that opposites do attract. And to my one-of-a-kind parents, Mom and Dad, thank you for raising me the best way you knew how. You have raised your children up in the way we should go, and we will not depart from it. Thank you. I love you guys. And finally, to those of you who never thought you'd make it here, and to those of you who always knew they would, congratulations. May you achieve all the dreams and successes that are placed on your heart. Enjoy your day. Thank you.
When I first talked to Ms. Thompson about ideas for a speech, she told me to find a metaphor for my Hawken experience. She told me to think about defining moments in my life and in my Hawken career that I could write about easily and relate to the audience. I began to think long and hard about the most important times in my life. I thought about when in kindergarten, I invited the mayor to Hawken and how he came and spoke. I thought about walking into Dr. Colin's math class for the first time. I also thought about when I watched my first episode of ALF and realized that ALF stood for Alien Life Form. It's a joke, guys. Before that, I thought he was a dog or something. Most of all, though, I think about my 2002 CVC wrestling tournament. I had been sick pretty much the whole week before the tournament, and I came into practice the Friday before the meet. I had bronchitis and decided I would give the tournament my best shot, even though I wasn't 100%. For those of you who aren't familiar with the sport of wrestling and the structure of its tournaments, I will break it down for you. There's a first-round match that if you win, you move on to the semifinals. Losing at any point in the tournament means you have to keep wrestling more matches to place, something I was not in the shape to be doing. If you win your semifinal match, you're in the finals competing for the championship. My first match was a first-year wrestler that had had a rough season. He was a challenge that I knew I could overcome, even though I was sick. Went out and pinned him in the first period. The second round was a little bit different from the first. Naturally, the opponent that you face in the semifinals is better than the opponent you face in the first round. My opponent this round was Myers from Aurora. I did not know anything about him, except that he pinned his first round opponent in the second period. I knew he was going to be a tough match. The match started out fine. I was up 8 points at the beginning of the second period. The whole second and third periods are a blur, but two things stick out. The first is the fact that at one point, I was about to get pinned and lose the match. I tried a throw that did not work out right, and I was on my back, getting pinned. There I was, on my back, with a sweaty armpit in my face, my throat carrying the weight of another 152-pound human being. Top it off, I was tired. I was really tired. In those short moments, I had a choice. I could give up and get pinned, or I could grit it out, get off my back, and win the match. The second thing I remember is the fact that I did it. I bridged out of bounds, hit a switch, got some back points, and won. The next thing I remember is coming off the mat and thinking I was going to die. I had never been that tired in my life. I was almost in tears from exhaustion. After going to the locker room for like 30 minutes, or 40 minutes, I came back out. And in the midst of my next 30-minute coughing fit, I began to think. I thought about how there are challenges like that every single day, and how this was the first time in my life I had truly stepped up to a challenge, decided I was going to do something difficult, and did it. There I was in the CVC finals, a place that I'd always wanted to be, but never thought I would get to, especially being sick. This round, I had Bill Brooks of Kirtland. He was their captain and their stud. And after winning the last match, I was so juiced. For those of you who aren't familiar with the term juiced, it means pumped. It can also mean angry, like, you can't go, man? Why is your mom always so juiced all the time? Anyway, I was so juiced that I thought I could take on anyone. I went out and won the CVC championship. In life, there are constant struggles and challenges, some harder than others. This experience speaks to anyone who at some point in their life has found themselves in a tough situation. It could be a wrestling match, but it could also be a difficult paper you have to write, a really tough class, or an injury with painful physical therapy. Whatever the challenge is, the story proves that if you try as hard as you can accomplish the things that you want. The championship match was cool, but out of all three matches, the one I still think about most is the second round match. Had I not decided to grit it out and fight, I would have lost the match and probably would not have even placed. Those few moments taught me so much about myself and so much about life. It's funny how sometimes you have to go through the worst feelings and emotions to learn the most important lessons and make the most important realizations. Those few seconds showed me that if I made a decision to do something, that I could do it. That if I could get through the tough times, it would pay off in the end. They taught me that giving up gets you nowhere. Those are the messages I want to leave you with. Believe, because if you try your hardest, sometimes you can surprise yourself. In closing, I'd like to give some shout-outs. I want to thank my mom and the rest of my family for always supporting me. I want to thank Coach Rodriguez and Coach Walton for all their support and guidance. I want to thank all the teachers that I've had here in my 13 years of Hawken. Big ups to all my friends, the survivors, the lacrosse team, state champs, and my boy Drew. I didn't know if we were all going to make it, but we did. Thanks a lot.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. We are gathered here today to celebrate one of life's great transitions, and what a wonderful day it is for all of us. It is with enormous pride that I stand here before you, but it is even a greater privilege for me to be considered a part of the Hawken family and to count myself as a member of this remarkable academic community. I must confess that I'm a bit nervous standing here facing such a distinguished audience. I think I understand how Jennifer Lopez's new husband must have felt on the night of their wedding. That is, I know what's expected of me. I'm just not sure I've got the ability to make it interesting. But here goes. It's amazing how much we have all grown in the past 4 years, and we owe a great debt of gratitude to our teachers, our parents, our family, and our friends who put up with all our trials and tribulations as we navigated the complex path through adolescence. I remember the words of Mark Twain, who said, "When I was a boy of 14, my father was so ignorant I could hardly stand to have the old man around. But when I got to be 21, I was astonished at how much he had learned in just 7 short years." So I guess our parents have grown a lot too. In preparing the valedictory address, I found myself a bit overwhelmed. To be honest, I didn't even know what the word valedictory meant. It turns out the term has a Latin derivation. Unfortunately, the extent of my Latin consists of the phrase Lexus convertible. But valedictory comes from the Latin term valedicere, which means to say farewell. And as we gather here on this beautiful afternoon in June to say farewell, we do so with a mixture of emotions: excitement and apprehension, elation and anxiety, exhilaration and concern. Because as we prepare to leave the hallowed halls of Hawken, we find ourselves entering an unstable world marked by volatility and chaos. How many of us remember what life was like 4 years ago when we started school here at the upper campus? For some, it seems like just yesterday, although for me and anyone else who took AP Physics with Mr. Schertz, it seems like a lifetime. In fact, I sometimes wake up at night in a cold sweat recalling Newton's second law of motion, that force equals mass times acceleration, or, in Mr. Schertz's terms, F net equals your mama. But 4 years ago, we were all a lot younger, and the world was a very different place. The concerns we had then seem insignificant compared to those we face today. When we entered high school, the nation was obsessed with the sexual indiscretions of our president, and banner headlines featured the likes of Paula Jones, Monica Lewinsky, and Kenneth Starr. The rise of internet shopping sites made people wonder if traditional malls would be eradicated. A new type of photography became available to the public with the introduction of the digital camera. William H. Gates introduced Microsoft's Windows 98 as a new operating system, and Apple created the iMac as an affordable computer to compete with the dominating PC market. The Disney Corporation was busy creating a new luxury cruise line. The Cleveland Indians had lost the World Series to the Florida Marlins in 1997, and in 1998, they didn't even make it to the World Series. And in 98, the Cleveland Browns football team didn't even exist. They were masquerading in Baltimore as a team called the Ravens. Consider what has happened to the world during the past 4 years. We witnessed the impeachment of one United States president and the election of another by the Supreme Court. In October 1998, the brutal murder of Matthew Shepard in Laramie, Wyoming, reminded us that hate crimes and discrimination against homosexuals are still part of our society. In March of 1999, the lynching of Emmett Till by 2 men in Jasper, Texas, revealed that the face of racism is still with us. And in November of that same year, young Elian Gonzalez of Cuba lost his mother on the high seas during a daring escape to the United States, and then became a focus of a custody battle that polarized the nation. In February 1999, we were shocked again, this time by the brutal murder of a West African immigrant, Amadou Diallo, who was gunned down in a barrage of 41 bullets in front of his apartment in New York City. All 4 police officers who shot him were subsequently acquitted. Then, in December 2000, a disgruntled worker named Michael McDermott gunned down 7 co-workers at the Edgewater Technology Internet Company in Wakefield, Massachusetts. The violence has continued to escalate. Our schools, once considered safe havens of higher learning, became the sites of senseless massacres. In March 1998, 5 people were killed and 10 wounded at the Westside Middle School in Jonesboro, Arkansas, by Mitchell Johnson, age 13, and Andrew Golden, age 11. In May 1998, 2 students were killed and 22 wounded in the cafeteria at Thurston High School in Springfield, Oregon, by 15-year-old Kip Kinko. In April 1999, 15 were killed and 23 wounded in the nation's deadliest school shooting at Columbine High School in Littleton, Colorado. The assailants, Eric Harris, age 18, and Dylan Klebold, age 17, had plotted for a year to kill at least 500 and blow up their school. Then, in February 2000, 6-year-old Kayla Rowland was shot dead at Buell Elementary School near Flint, Michigan. The assailant was a 6-year-old boy with a .32 caliber gun. In May 2000, middle school teacher Barry Greneau was shot and killed in Lake Worth, Florida, by Nate Brazil, age 13, with a .25 caliber semi-automatic pistol on the last day of classes. And in March 2001, Charles Andrew Williams, age 15, killed 2 and wounded 13, firing from a bathroom at Santana High School in Santee, California. It is sickening and mind-boggling to recount that all this has transpired subsequent to our matriculation at Hawken. These horrendous acts of violence have sent a chill through our collective national spine. On the international scene, terrorism reared its ugly head again in October 2000 when the guided missile destroyer USS Cole was bombed during a refueling stop in the harbor at Aden, Yemen. 17 sailors were killed and 39 wounded. Then, on September 11, 2001, we witnessed the unspeakable horror of a synchronized terrorist attack on American soil in which commercial airliners were used as deadly weapons to take the lives of thousands of innocent civilians. And if this were not enough, we have since been confronted with the issues of anthrax, pipe bombs, rising tension in the Middle East, the possibility of war between India and Pakistan, and the phrase, "not if, but when," in last week's New York Times to describe the nightmare of nuclear terrorism. Even the sanctified halls of organized religion have been rocked by the news of sexual predators and child molestation. What has this world come to? And here, in our protected environment at Hawken, where we have been consumed by SATs, ACTs, and various advanced placement tests, how can we not be shaken by these repulsive events? In my humble opinion, graduation is a time for reflection. As we are about to enter the next phase of our lives, I think it is worthwhile to take a minute to consider where we are heading. These are troubled times, and at the very least, we all share a common anxiety about our future. We are leaving our homes, each of us about to begin a new life at a new school, for many in a new city and a new state. It is useful to step back and contemplate our place in the world, to consider what we are going to do with our lives, and how we can reconcile the instability of the present with the uncertainty of the future. Although I hardly consider myself an expert in giving advice, I nevertheless would like to offer a few thoughts about how each of us can manage life after Hawken. So, in the remaining moments, let me share with you Nate Cohen's 5-step program for the future. Step 1, find a passion. Step 2, take a risk. Step 3, take a stand. Step 4, work like a dog. And finally, step 5, never give up. Let me tell you briefly what I mean. By find a passion, I mean choose something that you enjoy doing and that you have a talent for. It's always best if you're good at what you like to do, but that's not always the case. For example, many of you are aware that I have an innate gift for interpretive dance. The problem is, I'm just not that interested in it anymore. Seriously though, you'll always do a better job at something that interests you, so spend some time finding your passion. Next, take a risk. This is not an invitation to be reckless, but without taking risk, you will never know if you've reached your full potential. For those of you who are basketball enthusiasts, you'll always miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Don't be afraid of risk. It is a necessary ingredient for success. Work like a dog really needs no explanation. Unless your name is Donald Trump, Warren Buffett, or Ted Turner, you're probably going to have to roll up your sleeves and sweat some to make your mark. All things being equal, victory will always go to the person who works the hardest. So keep your eyes on the prize and work your ass off to achieve it. Never give up is probably the most important concept of all. Don't be afraid of failure. No one can achieve true success unless he or she knows what it is like to fail. If you want to see the rainbow, you've got to put up with a little rain. Everyone will confront failure at some point. The true measure of man is not whether he fails, but rather how he deals with failure. So when things look the darkest, just remember the old football cheer, illegitime non corporandum. Translation, Don't let the bastards get you down. A helpful way to navigate through the troubled waters we are facing is to find a hero, someone to look up to, someone who can serve as a role model. For each of us, this individual may be different, but our heroes all share certain common attributes. Each embodies the 5 characteristics I just discussed. Let me end with a few brief examples. Lance Armstrong was born to a poor family in Plano, Texas. His mother divorced twice when he was young and worked as a secretary to support herself and her only child. Armstrong turned to athletics and chose to focus on cycling, earning an international reputation at a young age. Then, in October 1996, he was diagnosed with testicular cancer with widespread metastases to the abdomen, lungs, lymph nodes, and brain. Consider the terrifying struggle that confronted this poor young man who was given a less than 40% chance for survival as he embarked on a course of chemotherapy and intracranial surgery. But Armstrong was an individual of tremendous will who maintained that he would race competitively again. Who would deny this man the respect he earned when he returned to dominate the Tour de France, the crown jewel of international cycling, and win this grueling race not once, but 3 times in a row in 1999, 2000, and 2001? For those of us who think we've been working too hard, consider for a moment the life of Nelson Mandela. On the basis of his political convictions and his battle against apartheid, Mandela spent 27 years of his life jailed in South Africa. That's 10 years longer than I've been alive. But Mandela never let go of his convictions, and his unbelievable fortitude earned him the Nobel Peace Prize in 1993. He remains passionate about his work, and even now, at the age of 84, he awakens at 4:30 a.m. and works at least 12 hours each day. For anyone who feels that women can't compete effectively in a male-dominated society, consider the story of Katharine Graham. In 1963, she was a 46-year-old housewife and mother of 4 children when her husband, Philip Graham, who suffered from manic depression, tragically shot himself to death. Katharine Graham picked herself up, pulled herself together, and took over the presidency of the family business, The Washington Post. She quickly became the most powerful woman in publishing and presided over executive editor Ben Bradlee and reporters Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein. Her resistance to fold to political pressure ultimately led to the indictment of over 40 members of the United States government and the resignation of the president himself. Finally, for any of us who feel we're having a bad day, take a look at the life of Stephen Hawking. A mere glance at him elicits our pity, his twisted, paralyzed body confined to a wheelchair, and his every breath contingent on the presence of a tracheostomy and mechanical ventilator. Hawking suffers from amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, a neuromuscular disorder also known as Lou Gehrig's disease, named after the famous New York Yankee ball player who shared the same diagnosis. At first glance, one might suspect that Hawking's mind is as ravaged as his body. He cannot speak and communicates only with the aid of a computer. But what an extraordinary mind is housed within this shriveled, devastated frame. Hawking is a cosmologist of unparalleled brilliance whose work has given us insight into the Big Bang theory of the origin of the universe, as well as singularities and black holes. This remarkable man holds the title of Lucasian Professor of Mathematics at Cambridge University, a position once held by Sir Isaac Newton. Well, not all of us will go on to become Lucasian Professor of Mathematics, and it's unlikely that anyone here will win the Tour de France more than once. But somehow, each of us is going to find our place in the world, and we have been fortunate enough to begin our adult lives with a solid footing here at Hawken. It is my sincere hope that someday in the future, those of us graduating today will be sitting in the audience celebrating the graduation of our own children, and that we will be able to leave them a better world than the one we have inherited. Thank you very much.
Looking good, 2002. I got to begin with an apology. A couple weeks ago at lunch, Dr. McCracken asked me to keep this speech to 3 minutes and 27 seconds. I'm going to go a little bit over, Al. I'm sorry. Okay. A long time ago, when I was a young officer at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, I was ordered to choose 6 of my men and with them report to headquarters in full field gear with weapons and blank ammunition. The colonel turned us over to a camera crew from New York City, 3 very hip dudes wearing Nehru jackets and several strands of beads each. You'll have to ask your parents what Nehru jackets are. They took us to a field, arranged us in a mock battle scene, complete with smoke, and they took hundreds of photographs. They had been hired to create a scene for a recruiting poster for Army Officer Candidate School. They tore our uniforms and they splashed water under our arms. They posed me on one knee with the rifle raised, waving on the troops. The photograph appeared in Time magazine and Sports Illustrated and as a poster in front of post offices everywhere. It said simply, "Learn to lead." For my brother, the military fell somewhere between disgusting and idiotic. When he saw the poster, he said that it would do far more good for this country if it said, "Learn to read." At the time, I thought he was just being snide, as was his wont, but now I think that there was a hell of a lot of truth in what he said. I would like to use the privilege of this podium today to do some recruiting, not for the Army, but for service in general. I would like to encourage some of you who are graduating to choose service as a career. By service, I mean a job that contributes to society in some tangible and humane way, such as the clergy, or law enforcement, or the military, or teaching, especially teaching. I know all too well that in this society, perhaps as much as in any other in the world, a person's worth is calculated by the amount of money he has, however it is gotten. I also know that if you choose service, you won't get rich in a pecuniary sense, but you will be rewarded in other ways. You could choose business, advertising, or insurance, say. After spending a decade or 2 in a cubicle, you might have your own office with a window and be able to buy matching his and her jet skis and a house in Sanibel. Or you could choose teaching and help a young person overcome a reading disability, help her find joy in reading a sonnet, help her find wonder in reading a novel. You could choose an occupation that will get you a loge at the stadium, that will get you a 46-foot sailboat, or that baby blue Humvee to drive around in. Or you could choose, say, the military, where you can spend days or even weeks hiking in exotic mountains, sleeping under the stars, wearing free clothes, and eating free food. You could choose a job that will reward you with box seats at Severance Hall and shopping weekends in Milan. Or you could choose teaching and work with people who love to read, who love to learn even in middle age, people who are of unimpeachable integrity, people like John Tottenham and Nadja Deegan. You could spend several hours in traffic sitting in a heated leather seat, listening to an imported sound system, and then at the end of the day you could have a maitre d' pay you obsequious attention as he sweeps you toward a choice table. Or if you teach, you could spend the day watching the likes of Sam McCreary run, watching Lauren Torpy swim, reading a short story by Aubrey Jacobs, listening to Lily Krauss sing, watching Leo Hollins dance, and then on the way home in your used Blazer, you might stop and buy a book or a CD. If you were a success in the monetary world, you might build a shopping mall or a housing complex. If you have any success as a teacher, you might be lucky enough to help build the character of a young man or young woman who will one day be a success in her own way. If some of you do choose to teach, you will have the opportunity to encourage your students to stand up for freedom of speech against the tyranny of sorry conformity and political correctness. You will have the opportunity to teach them to be wary of people who use the word inappropriate more than once a month. You can show them that one doesn't have to be a humorless pedant to be a good teacher. And you can warn them that when they are offered victim status, they should just say no. If you choose service of some kind, you can be sure that the people you are serving with are not greedy for money, nor do they yearn for luxury. If you choose to teach, you probably will not get the chance to fly first class from Atlanta to Berlin to Hong Kong to Seattle and then home. But you will not have to be away from home often, and you won't miss your daughter's lacrosse game or your son's oboe recital. For me, it comes down to this. If you choose teaching or any form of service, you have chosen idealism instead of materialism, sacrifice instead of selfishness, possibility instead of resignation, the future instead of the present. Okay, I know what you're thinking. Ah, Peter, that's like such a crock. I could practice medicine or law or be a banker and still spend a portion of my life in service in many ways. I won't have to wear a uniform and one day find myself saluting nuns, UPS drivers, and the Orkin man. I won't have to squander my youth sitting in a classroom with children whose cerebral cortexes have been anesthetized by MTV. You're right, of course. I've spent all my adult life in service of one kind or another, and I do not regret it. Indeed, I'm proud of it. But I will confess to you that in my next life, I'm going to be a pediatrician, and I'm going to have a 46-foot sailboat. Oh, and about that recruiting poster. After I had found out how utterly obscene war is, I worried to my brother that some poor kid would see the poster and think that war is glorious and perhaps join the army because of it. He comforted me by saying that anyone stupid enough to enlist in the army because he had seen a picture of me trying to look like John Wayne deserved the army, and the army deserved him. I hope you don't go away today feeling the same way about this speech. Congratulations, class of 2002. We will miss you, but we're proud of you, and we wish you the best in whatever you choose to do.
This is it. Minutes from now, you seniors will be graduates of Hawken School and on to the next phases of your lives. In my role as president of the board, I have the honor of signing each of the diplomas being awarded today and to shake the hand of each graduating senior. Without question, this is the best part of this job. Each of you in the class of 2002 has completed your education at Hawken and are now embarking on the next stage of your life. You're about to walk out of here and off into the world, wherever that takes you. On behalf of the Board of Trustees, I wish each of you graduating today every opportunity and success. Congratulations to the class of 2002.
Ms. Ann Ireland, members of the Board of Trustees, Mr. Jim Berkman, on behalf of the faculty, I now present the members of the class of 2002 who have met all conditions as prescribed by Hawken School and the state of Ohio for the granting of the diploma. Jonathan Seth Edelstein. Sonia Rani Agarwal. Janelle Marie Ackerstrom. Owen James David Alexander.
Timothy Bennett Austin. Lindsay Nicole Bayless. Jeffrey Scott Beck. Alexander Michael Burchek. Philip Bickerton Berkman. James Thompson Fletcher. Catherine Morgan Bohens. Joan Marie Brown. Adam Joseph Carreras. Michael Christopher Carreras. Anthony Albert Carter. Casey Jean Clark. Jason Tyrone Claiborne. Nathan Tyler Cohen. Timothy Francis Cox. Crystal Rochelle Chris. Lindsay Amelia Cunliffe. Nita Daga. David Reed Dempsey. Devin Stephen Drozdick. Douglas Michael Epler. Rachel Elizabeth Estrin. Lindsay Marie Evangelista. Brandon Michael Fitzgerald. Paul Israel Franklin. Daniel Joshua Friedman. Hannah Madeline Gelman. Elizabeth Ann Genovese. Matthew Robert Gray. Andrew Bird Gray. Michelle Ursula Grokey. Kevin Michael Gukas. Delani Sarasinga Gunwardina. Hunter William Haas. Beverly Elizabeth Hairston. Brandon James Hale. Rebecca Ann Pampu. Peter Jacob Harold. Richard George Howa. David Andrew Heilman. Aaron Daniel Hoffman. Leo Holland Jr. Shan Ying Sandy Huang. Aubrey Corinne Jacobs. Abby Louise Jenkins. Andrea Claire Johnson. Lindsay Alita Johnson. Justin Reed Cadis. Emily Ann Katz. Franchelle Marie Klaus. David Samuel Korngold. Lillian Kelly Kraus. Sharonda Monet Lawson. Duncan Sampson McCreary. Melissa Orion McKessa. Christina Aurora Moldovan. Ian Andrew Morrison. Elizabeth Catherine Munn. Sean Michael Nelson. Christina Analia Newton. Robert Gordon Nicodem. Andrew Charles Nivens. Funcho Olulafe. Elon Marathe Owsley. Samuel Colin George Petrie. Monica Lakia Falgu. Jason Andrew Pullen. Caitlin Renee Randall. Richard Michael Rodems. Carmen Renee Rowan. Noam Max Schaefer. Benjamin Kaufman Schmidt. Jennifer Lynn Seidman. Brendan Flynn Shanahan. Allison Jill Shapiro. Victoria Elizabeth Shapiro. Amanda Michelle Slavich. Theodore Sebastian Statler. Anna Everett Stroll. Amit Indravardhan Thaker. Danny Thomas II. Evan John Topol. Lauren Marie Torpy. Alexander Elias Trebosi. Lawrence McDavid Trotter. Mary Christine Vargo. Cecilia Noel Vaughn. Jenna Rachel Walsh. Jonathan Clinton Watkins. Powell Myrick Wenzel. Arcola Ann Watley. Douglas Garrett Weimer. Andrew Frederick Wolford. Rachel Marin Young. Near Youngster. Melissa Ann Zwick. Ladies and gentlemen, the graduates of the class of 2002.
Just say the words. Don't even try. Just say the words.